Hello everyone, myself Komal and I am a student of MBA Business Analytics at Guru Jambheswar University Science and Technology of Haryana School of Business. Today my topic is indifference curve, so let's start. Consumer preferences. So basically, consumer preferences refers to the individual taste, choice, properties that guide consumers' decision when selecting a product or service. Understanding these preferences is critically for business to create a strategies that aligns with what consumer value most. Assumption about consumer preferences. So these are the assumption. The first one is a rational behavior of consumer. Second one is a completeness of preferences, and third one is a transitivity of preferences. Fourth one is non-station, more is better. Next one is a dimensioning marginal utility, and next is consistency of choice over time. So let's go the next slide. Indifference curve approaches. Ordinal utility. Basically, the ordinal utility implies that the consumer is capable of simply comparing the different level of satisfaction. The next one is the nation's preference and indifference. The concept of ordinal implies that the consumer cannot go beyond starting his preferences of indifference. Here are the assumption of indifference curve. So you can see the first one is more of commodity is better than less. The second one is preferences of indifference if consumer are transitivity. The third one is a diminishing marginal rate of substitution. So these are the assumption of indifference curve. The next one is indifference curve. So basically, if I explain in simple word, indifference curve is a curve that shows the relationship between two goods, relationship or a combination between two goods. So you can see the definition. An indifference curve is a graph showing combination of two goods that gives the consumer equally satisfaction and utility. Each point on an indifference curve indicates that the consumer is indifference between two and all points give him the same utility. So this is the curve or indifference curve. You can see that the goods, the first one is food and the second one is clothing. So this is the indifference curve, and now you can see the indifference map. So what is indifference map? uh, a complete description of consumer taste and preference can be represented by an indifference map, which consists of a set of indifference curve because the field in two-dimensional diagram contains an infinity number of points, each representing a combination of goods x and good y. There will be an infinity number of a indifference curve, each passing through the combination of good that are equally desirable to the consumer. And you can see the curve here, good y and good x. The next one is marginal rate of substitution. So basically the concept of indifference curve analysis is based on law of dimensional marginal rate of substitution. What's the meaning of marginal rate of substitution? Which is the marginal rate of substitution is the rate at which consumer would be willing to forego a specific quantity of a good or more units of another goods at the same utility level. I hope you understand. The next one is indifference schedule. So, uh, indifference schedule, you can see that the combination of two goods, the first x and the second y, and this is the marginal rate of substitutions. Uh, the next one is indifference schedule. So here are the indifference schedule between good y and good x. So you can see the curves here. The next one is the principle of dimensional marginal rate of substitution. The marginal rate of substitutions I asked before. The concept of indifference curve analysis is based on law of dimensional marginal rate of substitution. In a simple language, if I explain, the marginal rate of substitution is a rate at which a consumer would willing and forego a specific quantity of a good for more unit of another good at the same utility level. So this is the formula. The next one is the diminishing marginal rate of substitution, which means as the consumer consumes more of good X and less of goods Y, the willingness to give up good Y of additional utility of good X decreases. The result in convex shape of the indifference curve. The next one is the rational. The principle is based on the assumption of dimensional marginal utility. The more you have of a good less addition satisfaction utility you derive from consuming more of it. Thus the consumer value of scrays good xy in case more as its quantity dimensions. The next one is a graphical representation. So, on an indifference curve, the marginal rate of substitution decreases as you move down along the curve from left to right. The fifth one is implications. The principle is crucial in understanding consumer equilibrium as it explains the allocation of resources between the goods. The next one is reason of dimensional rate of substitution. The first reason is a station of wants. The intensity of the consumer desire for good X decreases as more if consumed. Good X has the high marginal significance utility and good Y has a lower significance, leading to higher sacrifices of Y over time. This reverses. The next one is imperfect substitutability. Most goods are not perfect substituted. As the consumer substitute X or Y, the related satisfaction from X increases, then increases less than the satisfaction foregone for Y. The next one is assumption. So here are the assumption. The first one is the rational behavior of consumer. The second one is the utility or is ordinal. The next one is a dimensional marginal rate of substitutions, consistency in choose, transitivity in choice, making good consumed as substitutability. The next one is these are the properties of indifference curve. You can see that the first one is a sloping downward. Insert nor be tangent with one another higher the indifference curve represented the higher level of satisfaction and convex to the origin. So I can explain this. You can see the curve here. The curve is The curve shows the indifference curve slopes downward from left to right. You can see that this is the good y and this is good x. Good y is orange and good x is apple. So here you can see the downward slopes downward. The next one is two indifference curve never touch or intersect each other. You can see that the two indifference curve, you can see in the curve that two indifference curve never touch or intersect each other. The next one is a higher indifference curve shows the higher level of satisfaction. Now you can see the satisfaction here, higher level of satisfaction here in this curve. The next one is a convex to the point of origin. Basically, the indifference curve is always convex to the point of origin. So these are some non-normal cases of indifference curve. The first one is goods. The definition is both commodity provide positive utility satisfaction to the consumer. Indifference curve shape goods consumed to the origin due to the dimensional marginal rate of substitution. As you consume more one good, you give up less to the other to maintain the same level of utility. Example, a combination of chocolate or coffee. When you consume chocolate more, you can sacrifice is coffee. So the next one is a beds. The definition of beds, at least one of the commodity reduce the consumer utility, negative satisfaction. Indifference curve shape upward sloping because consumer more of bad requires additional compensations in the form of more the good maintain the same utility level. For example, a combination of a clean air and a population, more population requires more clean air to compensate. The next one is a natural good. So what's the definition of this natural good is one community have no impact or utility while the other provides satisfaction. You can see the you can see here indifference curve shape, meaning vertical or horizontal line depending on which commodity is neutral. The example of a natural good is a combination of coffee and neutral. So here are the curves of these. You can see the clothing and populations. These are negative sloping, and you can see the commodity X non normal. So these are the curves which I explained you. The now you can see the station and points of bliss. Stations occurs when a consumer satisfaction or utility from consuming a good or service reaches its maximum level. Beyond the point, consuming more of the good does not increase satisfaction and may even decreases it, leading to distability. It reflects the idea that there is an optimal or most preferred combination of good for a consumer. The next one is point of place. The point of place is a specific combination of good and service at which a consumer maximum utility. It is the ideal point of consumption where the consumer achieve the highest satisfaction or a happy possible given the preferences. Graphical, this is the representations as the point where an indifference curve showing combination of good that provide equal utility reaches its peak at tendency with the consumer budget line. So you can see the graph over here. So this graph shows the different zone of goodness and badness point of bliss. Here are the budget line and price line. So basically what is budget line and price line. The budget constraints represent all the combination of good and service that consumer may purchase given current price within his or her given income. It will be straight line. It will have a negative slope. You can see that slope of indifference curve is equal to the slope of budget or price line. The next one is, here you can see the budget schedule and the curve. The next one is change in budget line. So first one is income, change in income when income of consumer is changed. So increase lead to parallel outward shift, decrease lead to parallel inward shift. These are the curves. And the change in price, when a price of a good changes, then a decrease in price of good X rotate the line counter clockwise. Increase the price of good X, rotate the line clockwise. You can see that. Change in price and shift in budget line. But here you can see the budget line represent all the possible combination of two goods that a consumer can purchase given their income and the price of a good. The change of the price of one good alter the slope of a budget line, while the consumer's income, the price of other good remains constant. A shift occurs when the consumer income changes or when both price change proper professionality. The next one is change in price and shift in budget line. You can see the curves here which I explain you. This is change in price and shift in budget line. What's the meaning? So basically, change in income refers to an increase or decreases in consumers' purchasing power, assuming constant price of a goods. A shift in the budget line occur when income changes occasioning the budget line moves parallel outwards or inwards, or an income decreases without altering its slope. The relative price of goods remains unchanged. You can see the curve here. Consumer equilibrium. So basically, consumer equilibrium refers to a situation in which a consumer with given income and a given price purchases such a combination of two goods and service. Sorry, purchasing such a combination of good and service as given him maximum satisfaction, and he is not willing to make any change in it. So here you can see the curve of consumer equilibrium. There are two goods here. These are the assumptions. What is the consumption are consumer income or income in constant. Consumer knows the price of all the things. Consumer can spend his income in small quantities. Consumer is rational. The next one is second order condition of consumer equilibrium. So what's the meaning? The sound order conditions is that at the point of equilibrium, indifference curve must be convex to the origin, or to put it in another way, the marginal rate of substitutions or x and y must be falling at the point of equilibrium. So here you can see the curve. ठीक है, the next one is difference in preference and consumers equilibrium and choices of goods. So you can see the curve here. These are the two curves which shows, these curves is Amit's preferences, this curve shows the Amit preferences, and this curve shows the Rajiv's preferences. The next one is consumer equilibrium corner solution. The first one is convex indifference curve and corner equilibrium. This curve shows convex indifference curve, and the second one is a corner equilibrium. You can see this. The next one is the key points. So what's the key point is, an indifference curve shows a combination of two goods in various quantity that provides equal satisfaction to any. This is the definition which I gave you first. It is used in economic to describe the point where individuals have no particular preferences for either good and another based on the real related quantity. So here you can see the curve which I show you the first show you in the first slide when I explain the indifference curve. So you can see here. So now that this is the last one, the conclusion. So the conclusion is basically indifference curve as found fundamentally concept in consumer theory, how individual makes choices between different goods while aiming the maximum their utility. They help economics understanding consumer behavior and trade of consumer willing to make when faced with limited resources. So thank you so much. I hope you can understand. Thank you.